So just wanted to review the process on how to buy, finance, the whole process on buying a rental property. I'm going to be doing this next year, my second property. Figured it'd be helpful if you're curious of the guidelines and things of that nature. So first is the down payment. And before saving for a down payment, a lender's going to look for right around a 740 credit score. They're also going to want 2 years of tax returns and a consistent income. So if you have a job, it's ideal you want to be there for at least 2 years, and they're going to look at the work history on that. The lender's also going to look at bank statements, and with those bank statements, they're going to do a debt to income ratio. So just so we have it so far, they're going to want a 740 credit score minimum, 2 years of your returns, and a consistent work history. They're going to do a debt to income ratio. Also, in addition to that, they're going to want 3 to 6 months reserves is a PITI, or principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. That's helpful just because when you buy the property, they want to make sure you're not going to be late on your payments immediately. So 3 to 6 months additional to that down payment amount. So let's pretend your mortgage is $1,500. If they want 3 to 6 months, it'd be safe to have another $4,500 or $9,000 saved after the down payment and the closing costs are paid. Next is the down payment. Here, if it's a primary residence you're looking to invest, you have options. FHA is what I've used before. That's 3.5% down. You can also consider programs, depending on the lender you work with. There are other programs that work for multifamily. If it's a single family residence, you can also do typically less than 20% down without paying PMI, but it's lender specific. If it's a pure investment property, it's typically going to be 25% down. So there's a major difference between a 3.5 FHA versus a 25% investment property in regards to the down payment and how your mortgage is structured. With FHA, you are paying very heavy interest for the first 11 years. When you're paying 25% down, it is much different. You're paying a lot of the principal balance. Before you start this, it's critical if you have a savings goal. If you're 6, 9, 12, 18 months out, you can begin to look at your income, if it is a consistent income, and project when you're going to be able to save the same amount of money you need in order to have that down payment, which should be your first goal initially. Next, you're going to be pre-qualified, and a lender is going to assist you with this. This is going to give you the exact amount was what you're going to qualify for. So let's pretend it's $350. You're pre-qualified for $350. That means that's the maximum amount you could afford, and you should only be looking at homes in the sub $350 range. Just because it wouldn't make any sense at all to look at anything, $375, $400 and above. When a property is priced right and it's marketed appropriately, it is typical to see them go off the market within a week, typically, or 2 weeks, depending on the competitiveness of the market. Each market's going to vary. But I know for multifamily in my area, at least in Massachusetts, it's highly competitive, and anything that's done correctly or they price it competitively, it typically goes very quickly. So it's absolutely critical to have that pre-approval letter in hand before taking a look at properties, just so you see what's on the market. After you're pre-approved, you're going to be seeing properties in person. If you've never done this before, it could be quite the experience. But the main thing to look for is the condition, the foundation, the structure, and also the rental history. If you are buying a rental property, typically we see them under rented. Just means they are not directly at the market rent, which does give you opportunity in order to increase the value of the property. If you've not spoken with a real estate agent, it's probably best to speak with one in order to see properties. As a buyer, you don't really pay for a real estate agent. There's no fee you pay to an agent at all. They assist you with the whole buying process. They guide you on the offer process once the home's under contract, and there's no real downside of using a buyer's agent if you have not done it. So I'd highly recommend when you're looking at properties, you want to work with a buyer's agent who knows the area. And if it is single family, make sure they know single family, or if it's condos or multifamily, you definitely want to make sure they have experience in that area. If it is a FHA or a house hack, I would highly recommend, if you are moving into the property, you want to know the tenant class you are working with. So a good indicator, you could take a look at the school district, you could take a Trulia, you could look at the crime maps, you want to drive the neighborhoods, at night, just to get a very good feel for the area, because you want to make sure you're comfortable living in the area as well. Step 4 is the deal analysis. So on paper, what does this property look like when I'm living in the property? With FHA, the numbers are going to look different when you move in compared to when you move out. A decent benchmark is just to make sure your mortgage is 50-75% paid from the other units, or sometimes you could even have a positive spread when you are living in the property if you do have very strong rents. There's rules of thumb for this, but really in general, it's your comfort level and how quickly you want to get into the market and the real estate game. If you buy the property at the right price, it should go up in value over time. So the purchase price is not super important, because over time you have the tax benefits, the loan pay down, you have possible cash flow, and you're likely making a lot more than you would be paying rent. Just because, we're looking at, let's say you pay $1,000 in rent for a year, that's $12,000. If you are paying only $500 to live in a property, that's $5,000 in 1 year. So we have $12,000 and we have $5,000 you're paying to live into the property. That's a $17,000 swing. Something simple like that most people won't think of. It's just a major benefit of having the property. When you are making offers in on the property, it's important to consider the condition and to consider the market or the market temperature. So you want to put an offer in on what you're comfortable with in regards to two things. One, if the property goes under contract with someone else, are you okay with that? Losing it over a couple grand. Because let's say the purchase price is $295 and you want to go in at $290. That's where you think your numbers make or break it. If you look at the mortgage payment, it's not significantly different if it's $290, $293, $295, $298. It's, 10, 20, $30 more a month, depending on the rates or something of that nature, but it's not highly significant if you are looking to hold on to the property long term. Because then you get the property, you get it at a low rate, you hold on to the property for however long you're looking to hold on to, and you're going to be building that loan pay down over time instead of sitting on the sidelines and essentially just waiting for that perfect deal. I know when looking in that first property, what I did is I bought the property and I probably saw a handful. I put an offer in, maybe 2 or 3, but the key is not getting discouraged when I don't get the offer accepted, but also learning it's highly unlikely you're going to get a property at 80% of the purchase price when it's right on the market, unless it is improperly marketed, something such as it is zoned or it's put in as a single family but it's an actual legal duplex or something crazy like that where the agent makes a mistake. Once you put in an offer, the next step is the inspection period. So you put in an offer, let's say November 1st, typically within 7 to 10 days you're doing an inspection. You can pick whoever you'd like for your inspector. I know I use consistent folks for the past couple of years. I would use them myself and I recommend them typically to my clients. The inspector is going to take a 2-3 hour tour of the property. They're going to start in the basement, actually part of the exterior. They're going to go through all the major systems in the property. You're going to get this detailed 30, 50, 60 page report on the property depending on the age. And we know this. Even extremely new properties, built in, let's say the 90s, 2000s, still will have problems. The inspector's job is to be completely objective and to break down everything as if it were a brand new property. So the older the property, 1920s, 1930s, it's most of the multifamily here, they will have, if they're structurally sound, that's a good thing. Anything foundational issues, that's something that's typically scary, not good for a first-time investor or first-time buyer. But other than that, the foundation is solid. Are the windows newer? Does the heating system look okay? Is the roof newer? All those major CapEx or capital expenditures, if those are in good shape, typically you found a pretty good property, at least for your time being. It's not going to benefit it long term if you typically don't get the deal based on something major. And you got to learn every property is going to have problems. So during this inspection period, you can renegotiate if you see a major issue. So you can either do it in a list, such as items X, Y, Z, I want these done, or you can say based on this, I want a reduction in the purchase price. Depending on the situation, everything's different. But during that inspection period, if you're not comfortable, you can also walk away. If it doesn't look good to you and you're just not feeling the deal, you can walk away and you can typically get your earnest money back. So unless they do non-refundable earnest money, which is pretty uncommon, but some listing agents might make you do that if it's very competitive. And after the inspections, you go to purchase and sale, you're going to be replacing the offer. You're going to work with an attorney. You can choose whoever you'd like. I recommend attorneys, but you can choose whoever you'd like to represent you for the purchase and sale agreement. It replaces the offer in Massachusetts. And over the next 30 days, things become pretty busy. You're going to be looking for insurance for the property. You're going to make sure all the repairs are done on the property. Actually, your agent's going to do that. If you are inheriting tenants, you want to make sure when you close, you have a time to meet with them and go over the new agreement. And there's going to be an appraisal for the property just to make sure it appraises at that price. But when you close, typically 45 days from now, on that day you're handed the keys to the property. And if you are inheriting tenants, you want to make sure you do a new lease or a new agreement. I typically meet with them, go over everything, a few days after closing on the property, and you're going to go over everything that's new to the agreement, go over what utilities are being paid, if there's an increase in rent, things of that nature, and you want to sign a new agreement. So with that, that's the final step in regards to buying a property. As you can see, hopefully it's broken down easy enough where you see there's 8 main steps in buying the property. A lot of it is done actually before the scenes, before you need to have the down payment, you need to be pre-approved, you need to find an agent, you need to start looking at properties, you need to put in offers, you need to have an offer accepted, go through the inspection period, then the purchase and sale, and closing. And then inheriting tenants and go over the onboarding process or screening out tenants, and that's something I've done as well. But that's a whole nother topic. But hopefully you found this helpful. If you did, please share out the content.